ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Hi, I'm Sam Hawley, coming to you from Gadigal Land. I'm inside the budget lockup in Sydney to bring you a special edition of ABC News Daily.
To the Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I move that the bill be now read a second time.
And I'm joined by the ABC's business editor, Ian Verinder. Thanks for joining
Sam.
me. It's a lot of fun in here. Now, Ian, we've spoken to you a few times for budget lockups, and I know you love to give budgets a song title. We've had Back in Black.
Tonight, I announce that the budget is back in the black and Australia is back on track.
The hot chocolate budget, where everyone was a winner. That was a good one. And Highway to Hell, which was really bad, obviously.
Yep.
So, your verdict?
Maybe Here Comes the Sun.
Here comes the sun. Brilliant. So it's looking up, obviously, because this budget projects a surplus, the first in 15 years, and Jim Chalmers seems pretty proud. It's a treasurer's dream.
Because our first two budgets made such a firm commitment to responsibility and restraint, we are now forecasting a small surplus in 2022-23, which would be the first in 15 years.
Well, it is, and I guess, though, you have to ask the question, how did we get here? And is this, down to the brilliance of the government, or are there other factors at work? And really, I think even the Treasurer would admit that the economy is actually ticking along pretty nicely at the moment, despite all the negativity that surrounds the coverage of what's going on. And of course, we've got an inflation crisis. We've got a lot of people hurting with, not being able to cover the bills, rents going, through the roof. It's been very tough for a lot of people. But from a Treasurer's point of view, the money is just been pouring in recent times, and that has what has really driven this dramatic turnaround.
So what's happening there? How is it pouring in where we've got too much money by the side of it?
Well, I guess just last October, the government was forecasting a $32 billion deficit, and now we're in a $4.2 billion surplus. So what's happened is we've got a lot more tax revenue coming into play. And, there's a few factors behind that. One is that, our unemployment rate is at a half-century low. So 3.5% unemployment would have been unheard of just a few years ago. We've also got wages growth for the first time in a long time. So that's pushing people into higher tax brackets and increasing the amount of money that's coming in. Plus, we've got record numbers of people employed because we've now got, migrants back in the workforce. So there's a lot of people out there employed. And that has a double whammy effect. Not only is everybody or a lot more people paying tax and paying a little more tax than they were in the past, but you've got a lot less people on unemployment benefits, on JobSeeker. So you get extra revenue and less cost. So it really turbocharges the whole equation. And then on top of that, we've had, particularly in the past year, massive increases in commodity prices, particularly energy, coal, gas, oil. And that's really turbocharged revenue as well. So all of these factors have come into play at once to really drive up the amount of revenue that the government's collecting.
To make a rather happy treasurer. So he is celebrating a return to surplus, but how long does that last, Ian? How long do we have that for?
Just this year.
There's a catch.
Yeah. So it all starts to unravel next year. We go back into deficit next year, and those deficits actually get bigger the year after that and stay at, in the mid-$30 billion deficit era beyond that. Now, if we'd had, say, a $70 billion debt this year or a $70 billion deficit, which was kind of what was expected this time last year, that would have added enormously to the debt levels, and that debt goes on forever,
Right, yeah.
So this time we've not only eliminated that, but we've taken a little bit off the top as well. So that has an impact right across the broader spectrum. So those interest payments actually start to decrease further out.
So that's pretty good news. And of course, Jim Chalmers is really happy with that. But what Australians, I think, really want to know is when will things actually get easier for them? So, Ian, what does this budget tell us? What does it predict when it comes to inflation, which has been really high for a really long time now?
Yeah, well, there's been a debate in the last few days, particularly about the amount of money being spent on cost of living relief and the measures that have been announced tonight to do that, and whether or not they're actually inflationary. So if you give people money to make their life easier, that means they're going to spend that money, which is going to add to inflation. They're doing it in such a way that they're reducing the pressure on households and also claiming that that'll knock about 0.75% off the inflation rate. So if you look at the inflation rate stretching out to next year, the Reserve Bank is, I think, forecasting around about 4%, and the government today was forecasting a 0.75 percentage point lower than that.
So the government's expecting inflation to fall, its prediction is in this budget at least, from 6% this year to 3.25% next year, but that's slightly lower than what the RBA predicts.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. The Reserve Bank was saying 4, they're saying 3.25.
Yeah.
So, and that's primarily due to the fact that they're instituting these cost of living measures, which they also claim will reduce inflation. Now, it's the way you hand the money out. Rather than just hand the money out to people and say, here's the cash, go and pay your power bill, it'll be done as a payment to the company itself, so that the money goes directly off your power bill rather than you get the money to be able to go and spend it.
So not inflationary. So
Look, there's still an open question about that.
So let's have a look then at these measures that the government has announced to help people with the cost of living pressures that they're facing. You've mentioned help with electricity bills. So how does that play out? How many people are going to be helped by that? What else are we seeing? And is there anything new that we sort of didn't see before we actually laid eyes on the budget paper?
Not much. There's not much new in here. There's 5 million households and 1 million small businesses apparently that are going to benefit from the power bill assistance. And I mean, that will help a lot of people. There's no doubt about that.
It's about $500.
Yeah.
And tonight we are delivering up to $3 billion in direct energy bill relief for eligible households and small businesses, co-funded with the states and territories. More than 5 million households will have up to $500 deducted from their power bills in the next financial year. Real relief, right off your power bill, right when you need it.
I think it's going to be, if not means tested, at least handed out to those who are most needy. They'll get more than other people. 1 million small businesses as well. And bear in mind, a lot of small businesses are people who have mortgaged their house against their business.
Also, as we knew beforehand, JobSeeker will be extended, but it's only about $40 extra a fortnight. It's not huge money, is it? It's a tinkering, really, isn't it? It will help, I suppose, but it's not massive.
It's not massive, but it is a wider application, I think, than was most people anticipated. So it is for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think the original idea was that only certain people were going to get it, and there's going to be extra support for over 55s as well, long-term unemployed over 55s, most of whom are women in that situation.
Yeah. What else is there then, Ian?
There's quite a lot of medical, health initiatives out there. There's about, I think, $5 billion being spent on Medicare. There's tripling of the bulk billing incentive.
Yeah.
You've then got rent assistance, about 1.1 million people benefiting from that as well. It wouldn't be hard to put into, to figure out that those people needing rent assistance are also the people on JobSeeker, because there's 1.1 million each of those.
Again, and that's around $31 a fortnight extra.
Yeah, up about 15%.
Yeah.
So not a lot, but
every bit counts.
I guess so.
Yeah. So Jim Chalmers said he wanted to deliver cost of living relief in this budget without driving up inflation. Of course, that's key. So do you think he's achieved that in this budget?
Well, I think so. I mean, it's a pretty tricky kind of balancing act. So if you go out on a spending spree, that's going to force the Reserve Bank to jack interest rates up even more. You know, it is a balancing act for the Treasurer. I know there's a lot of pressure. I mean, every minister apparently in the ministry was traipsing into his office saying, "What, all this extra money's come in? How about you hand it out for here?" You know, so they've tried to be, I guess, all things to all people. But the government is saying, well, you know, the Treasurer particularly is saying 82% of our revenue upgrades in the past 2 years are going straight back into the government coffers, right?
Okay. So if we are looking at inflation sort of returning to the RBA's target rate by next year and into the following year, when will the ABA start to drop interest rates? When will food sort of become cheaper?
Well,
when will life be shinier?
You know, 6 months ago, we were predicting a huge deficit, and now we've got a surplus. I don't know how anyone can predict anything these days. Yeah. And look, there are a lot of forecasts out there that the global economy is in serious problems and that could tip into recession. The UK is certainly looking like it's going to go into recession. New Zealand is right on the cusp of a recession at the moment. If America tips into a recession, and a lot of analysts think it will, that could change all the dynamics, and it might kill inflation right off. It might cause central banks to start really cutting interest rates. And, you know, a recession is a, surefire way of killing inflation, but it also adds to unemployment.
So the answer is we don't really
Nobody
know.
knows,
Nobody knows. Okay, but we're hoping that there will be more sunshine to come.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is to keep as many people in a job as humanly possible and bring inflation down. Now, you know, if you were just focusing on inflation, you could put a huge number of people out of work, you know, quite easily by jacking interest rates up even more. But you do that and you create all sorts of pressure points for the economy down the track.
But of all the budgets we would have expected, this was a little bit of a surprise, better than we could have hoped for.
Yeah.
All right, Ian Verrider, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.
Ian Verrider is the ABC's business editor. The budget papers are also forecasting Australians will finally experience real wage growth by the middle of next year. For more coverage of the budget, go to the ABC News app. This special budget episode was produced by Veronica Apap and Chris Dengate, who also did the mix. Our supervising producer is Stephen Smiley. I'm Sam Hawley. Thanks for listening.